The deputy invented a police chase after handcuffing him, then learned he was the governor. The cruiser's GPS log showed one timestamp for the moment the handcuffs closed, and a different timestamp entered nearly 40 minutes later for the pursuit that supposedly came before it. Elias Boone was already standing at Pump 4 of the Blue Ridge Fuel and Stop when Deputy Cole Tanner's patrol car turned in off Route 9. Headlights sweeping from the opposite direction of anything resembling a chase. There had been no radio call for a pursuit that night. There was no channel open for one. Elias was 61, dressed in a faded canvas jacket and jeans worn soft at the knee, driving an old maroon Bronco that had belonged to his father. It was the kind of vehicle he took out alone on nights when he did not want a state trooper 3 cars back or an aide checking his schedule every 20 minutes. He was the governor of Ashmore, though nothing about him at that pump said so. He was driving home from a quiet visit to a veterans clinic 2 counties over, the kind of trip his office never placed on a public calendar. He had left the residence on short notice. At his request, his usual security detail was holding back at a distance. Tanner approached slowly, one hand resting near his belt, studying the Bronco's plate before he had said a single word to the man standing beside it. "This corridor's had a run of break-ins," Tanner said. "Vehicles like yours tend to come through here after." "I filled up 10 minutes ago," Elias said. "I can show you the receipt if that helps. Your registration's coming back protected. That's unusual for a truck this old. It's registered the way it's registered. I'd ask you to run it fully before we go further." Tanner glanced at the screen in his cruiser long enough to see the word protected appear. Then he looked away from it just as quickly and turned his attention back toward Elias. He did not wait for the registration to finish returning. Elias asked what specific crime Tanner was investigating. Tanner did not have an answer, only a description of a corridor and a feeling about the hour. Elias asked for a suspect description. He asked for a time of observation. He asked for a location of first contact. Each question landed on silence. Instead of answering, Tanner reached for the handcuffs on his belt. "I'm not resisting," Elias said, turning slightly so his hands were visible. "I want that clear before anything else happens." The cuffs closed around his wrists at 11:41 that night. The dashboard camera would later confirm the time down to the second. Only afterward, while Elias waited on the curb, did Tanner sit in the patrol car and begin writing his report. It was in that report, not in anything radioed live, and not in anything a dispatcher had heard as it happened, that a pursuit first appeared. Westbound flight from a marked corridor, evasive maneuvers before contact. None of it had been said over the radio while it was supposedly happening. Back at the County Communications Center, a dispatcher named Renee Ashworth pulled up the call history for Tanner's unit. No pursuit channel had ever opened. The cruiser's GPS placed Tanner approaching from the east the entire time. He had never been behind the Bronco. He had never been chasing anything at all. Renee sat with that for a long moment before picking up the phone to her shift supervisor. "He's saying there was a pursuit," she said. "There wasn't one. Not on my board. Not on GPS. Not anywhere I can see." Her supervisor told her to enter what the officer reported. She did not. Instead, Renee flagged the call for a source conflict review. Then she locked the original entry so nothing about that night could be quietly rewritten later. Earlier that same shift, Tanner had waved through a contractor's pickup with a mud-obscured plate near the same station. He accepted the driver's explanation about a job site without asking for another form of identification. At the gas station, a clerk named Marisol Diaz had watched the entire encounter from behind the register. She was close enough to see that the Bronco was already fueling when the cruiser rolled in. Her statement matched the GPS far more than it matched Tanner's report. There had been no chase. There had been no high-speed entry. There had only been a man standing quietly at a pump. Meanwhile, the Bronco's registration completed its full return. It was not a stolen plate. It was not tied to a shell company. It was a protected registration connected to a secure travel token used by the governor's residence security office. The system did not reveal a name. It instructed the responding officer to contact state verification immediately. Tanner had already ignored that instruction once. 40 minutes after the pursuit that never happened appeared in his draft report, a small, unmarked vehicle pulled into the station without lights or sirens. 2 members of the governor's security detail stepped out. They were led by Sergeant Elena Ruiz. She did not raise her voice. She did not announce anything to the handful of customers still parked at the pumps. She asked Tanner for the original log entry. She asked for the handcuff time. She asked for the source behind his corridor claim. Tanner could produce nothing beyond his own report. Ruiz told him to step back while she confirmed the driver's identity through the secure channel. The confirmation came over her radio in a single line. Tanner's eyes moved from the token in his hand to the dashboard camera still recording above his windshield. Something in his face went still as he understood exactly what that lens had already preserved. The restraints came off within minutes. There was no crowd gathered. There was no press car idling nearby. Nothing about the scene resembled the moment anyone imagines when they picture a governor being recognized on the side of a road. Elias did not smile when he heard his own name confirmed over the radio. He did not ask for anyone to be punished on the spot. "I want the original log entry preserved exactly as it was entered," he said. "The cruiser's GPS, the dashboard camera, the handcuff timestamp, the clerk's statement. All of it before anyone has a chance to smooth it over." Elias recused himself from any role in what followed. He asked the State Inspector General's office to conduct the review independently. No member of his staff would participate in a single interview. The investigation reached far beyond one gas station stop. Investigators pulled nearly 2 years of county patrol logs. They found a pattern hidden beneath vague internal labels. Those labels almost never applied to white residents driving the same roads. They appeared repeatedly beside Black and Latino motorists, older vehicles, and out-of-state plates. Investigators also found that cash and vehicles seized during these stops had funded a meaningful share of the department's overtime budget. Under civil forfeiture rules, the department had been allowed to keep property without first proving that the owner had committed a crime. The money depended on stops continuing, not on crimes being solved. Investigators found that Chief Grant Pemberton routinely renamed incidents after the fact. An unsupported detention became a preventive contact. A clean registration became an unresolved ownership question. He tried to apply the same relabeling to Tanner's stop of the governor. The locked original entry made the rewrite impossible. One earlier file drew particular attention. A schoolteacher named Corinne Lasalle had been stopped on the same stretch of road 11 months earlier. Tanner claimed the same vague corridor concern. He searched her sedan. Then he seized $2,200 she had been carrying for a family funeral. The money was never returned. Her complaint had been closed within a week as unfounded. When investigators reopened the file, they found the same missing evidence that Tanner's later report lacked. Corinne's record was corrected. Her money was returned with interest. She also received a formal apology months before the case became public. Tanner was placed on leave and later terminated. State prosecutors pursued charges tied to false imprisonment and the falsified pursuit entry. The case moved through hearings over the following year rather than ending in a single headline. His law enforcement certification was ultimately revoked. Chief Pemberton was removed from his position after the Inspector General's report. The department's civil forfeiture proceeds were separated from its own budget by state order. New rules required every claimed pre-contact observation to include a specific time and location before an officer could act on it. Report fields would now lock automatically the moment restraints were applied. Any claimed pursuit had to be checked against cruiser GPS before it could enter a final report. Renee's source conflict flag became a standard channel available to every dispatcher in the state. It answered to an office outside local police command. The choice she made that night would no longer have to depend on one supervisor's judgment. Months later, another black motorist stopped at the same pumps on Route 9. A deputy radioed in a vague concern about an unfamiliar vehicle. This time, the responding officer asked for specific facts before doing anything else. He ran the registration in full. He found nothing. Then he thanked the driver for his patience. No pursuit was invented. No one at the station ever learned what the driver did for a living. No one needed to. Elias drove the Bronco home that same week. The same faded jacket rested across his shoulders. The same keys that had once belonged to his father sat in his palm. He signed the reform bill in a small room with no cameras beyond the two required for the official record. That evening, he sat in his kitchen with the windows dark and the road outside quiet. He thought less about the badge that had placed him in handcuffs than about the map that had, in the end, refused to lie for it. This is a fictional story created for storytelling purposes.